No one on that flight expected a routine boarding delay to turn into a moment people would talk about for years. Passengers were settling into their seats, scrolling through their phones, thinking about meetings, vacations, and connections. Then a quiet disagreement near the front of the cabin began to draw attention, and within minutes, the entire plane fell into a silence so deep that even the engines seemed to fade behind it. What happened next left strangers wiping their eyes and rethinking what respect really means. The elderly woman had boarded slowly, leaning on a polished wooden cane, her posture straight despite her age. Her silver hair was neatly tied, and her calm expression carried a quiet dignity that didn't demand attention but naturally earned it. She had taken her assigned seat near the front, carefully placing a small handbag under the seat in front of her. A flight attendant approached, speaking politely at first, explaining that there had been a seating mix-up and asking if she would mind moving farther back. The woman listened without interrupting, her eyes steady, her voice gentle as she explained that she had specifically chosen this seat because walking long distances in the aisle was difficult for her. Around them, a few passengers began to notice the conversation, sensing the tension rising. Though neither voice was raised, the discussion continued, the attendant now sounding firmer, insisting that the move was necessary. The elderly woman remained composed, repeating her concern with quiet patience. There was no anger in her tone, only a calm resolve that made her words carry weight. A man across the aisle shifted uncomfortably, sensing that something about the situation felt unfair. Another passenger lowered her book, watching closely. The woman's hands rested lightly on the cane, and her gaze never dropped. She wasn't arguing to win, she was simply standing her ground with quiet strength. The atmosphere in that section of the plane grew heavy, as if everyone felt they were witnessing something important, even if they couldn't yet explain why. A few minutes passed, and the attendant stepped away, clearly unsure how to proceed. The elderly woman looked out the window, her expression thoughtful rather than upset. It was in that moment that a flight crew member quietly approached the cockpit, speaking in low tones. Passengers exchanged glances, curiosity spreading like a ripple across the cabin. The engines idled, and the plane remained at the gate longer than expected. Some travelers checked their watches, but most kept looking toward the front, drawn by the quiet gravity of the moment. The elderly woman sat still, unaware that her presence was about to change the course of the flight in a way no one could have predicted. Then the cockpit door opened, and the pilot stepped out. Conversation stopped instantly. He walked down the aisle with calm, deliberate steps, his eyes fixed on the elderly woman. The authority of his uniform carried a natural respect, but there was something in his expression that felt deeply personal. He stopped beside her seat, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. The passengers leaned forward, sensing that whatever was about to happen mattered far beyond a simple seating issue. The pilot's voice, when he finally spoke, was steady but warm, and every person on board could hear the sincerity in it. He addressed her by name, his tone filled with gratitude. He explained, briefly, that many years earlier, when he was a young trainee struggling to find his path, he had met a teacher who believed in him when few others did. That teacher had encouraged him to keep going, to stay disciplined, to believe that patience and perseverance would carry him farther than talent alone. He paused, emotion visible in his eyes, and said that the teacher sitting before him was the very person who had given him that guidance. A quiet murmur moved through the cabin as passengers realized they were witnessing a reunion shaped by decades of memory and respect. The pilot then did something no one expected. He straightened, placed his hand over his heart, and offered a respectful salute, not as a formal gesture, but as a sincere expression of gratitude. The elderly woman's eyes softened, and a gentle smile appeared, the kind that carries years of wisdom and kindness. The cabin remained silent, but it was a warm silence now, filled with understanding. Even the flight attendant who had spoken with her earlier stood nearby, visibly moved, realizing that the woman she had seen as just another passenger carried a lifetime of quiet impact that no boarding list could ever show. As the pilot returned to the cockpit and the plane finally prepared for departure, the mood on board had changed completely. Strangers exchanged small smiles, some quietly wiping tears, others reflecting on the people in their own lives who had shaped them in unseen ways. The elderly woman sat peacefully, looking out the window again, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But everyone on that flight knew they had witnessed something rare, a moment where respect, gratitude, and dignity rose above schedules, seats, and routines, reminding them that the true measure of a person is often written in the lives they touch, long after the moment has passed.